You know what fascinates me? Two people can live on the same street, work in the same industry, have the same education, and start with the same opportunities. Yet one retires wealthy and fulfilled, while the other struggles their entire life wondering what went wrong. I've studied this phenomenon for decades, and here's what I've learned. The difference isn't in their circumstances, it's in how they spent their hours. See, we all talk about being broke financially, but let me tell you something that might shake you up a bit. Most people are broke in time long before they're broke in money. They're bankrupt in hours, and they don't even know it. Let me tell you about two neighbors I knew years ago. Both lived in modest homes. Both worked regular jobs. Both had families. Every morning at 6, both of them woke up to the same sunrise, the same 24 hours stretched out before them like a blank canvas. But here's where the story gets interesting. The first man would stumble out of bed, grab some coffee, flip on the television to catch the news, scroll through his phone for 30 minutes, rush to get ready, and barrel out the door just in time to hit traffic. He'd come home exhausted, eat dinner in front of the TV, watch a few shows, maybe complain about his boss or his bills, and fall asleep around 11. Day after day, year after year, the same routine. Now, the second man, he had a different approach. He'd wake up at the same 6, but he'd spend the first hour reading, learning something new, working on a side project. He'd plan his day, set his priorities, and move through his work with intention. His evenings were spent building something. Sometimes a business, sometimes a skill, sometimes just deeper relationships with his family. Fast forward 20 years, the first man was still complaining about the same problems, still waiting for his luck to change, still wondering why life was so hard. The second man had built a successful business, raised kids who respected him, and had options most people only dream about. Same neighborhood, same starting point, same 24 hours every single day. The difference, one spent his time, the other invested it. Here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. Time is the ultimate equal opportunity employer. It doesn't care about your background, your education, your race, your connections, or how much money your parents had. Rich or poor, young or old, educated or not, everyone gets exactly 86,400 seconds deposited into their account every single day. Not 1 second more, not 1 second less. You can't save it up. You can't borrow against tomorrow's allotment. And you sure can't get a refund on yesterday's waste. When that day is over, those seconds are gone forever. Now that's what I call economic equality. But here's where it gets interesting. While we all get the same time deposit, we don't all get the same return on investment. Some people turn their 24 hours into wisdom, wealth, and wonderful relationships. Others turn the same 24 hours into regret, debt, and broken dreams. The time was the same. The return was radically different. Why? Because one group learned to invest their hours like a genius, while the other group spent their hours like a fool. Let me share something with you. The most expensive words in the English language might just be these four. I don't have time. Every time someone says that to me, I want to stop them right there and say, no, you have all the time there is. What you don't have is a plan for your time. What you don't have is discipline in your time. What you don't have is respect for your time. See, when someone tells me they don't have time to read, they're really saying reading isn't a priority. When they say they don't have time to exercise, they're saying health isn't a priority. When they say they don't have time to work on their dreams, well, they're saying their dreams aren't a priority. And that's fine. You get to choose your priorities. But don't lie to yourself about it. You have time. You're just spending it on other things. I'll never forget when I first started working for Mr. Shafee, my mentor who changed my life. I was about 25 years old, broke, behind on my promises, and making excuses for everything. One morning I showed up late to a meeting and I gave him the usual story. Traffic was bad, alarm didn't go off. You know how it is. He looked at me with those piercing eyes and said, Jim, successful people get up early, They don't wait for the alarm, they beat it. They don't fight traffic, they avoid it. They don't make excuses, they make progress. Then he said something I'll never forget. If you want to know where you'll be in 5 years, show me how you spend your mornings. Hit me like a ton of bricks. He wasn't talking about luck or circumstances or opportunities. He was talking about the small decisions I was making with my hours every single day. So I started paying attention, and you know what I noticed? The wealthy people in my life, the successful ones, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, they use their mornings completely different than I did. While I was sleeping in and rushing around, they were already 3 hours into their day. They'd exercised, they'd read, they'd planned. They'd already accomplished more before breakfast than most people do all day. And here's the kicker. They had the same morning hours I did. They just valued them differently. Let me give you some mathematics that might change your perspective. Let's say you waste just 30 minutes a day. Maybe it's Mindle scrolling on your phone. Maybe it's watching TV shows you don't even enjoy. Maybe it's sitting in the break room complaining about things you can't control. Just 30 minutes seems harmless, right? But let's do the math. 30 minutes a day times 365 days equals 182.5 hours a year. That's over 7 full days. In 5 years, that's 36 days. More than a full month of waking hours completely wasted. In 40 years, that's 293 days. Almost an entire year of your life gone, vanished, spent on nothing that mattered. Now, let's flip that around. What if you invested that same 30 minutes every day in reading books in your field? In 5 years, you'd be an expert. What if you spent it building relationships with people who could help you grow? In 5 years, you'd have an incredible network. What if you used it to exercise, to learn a new skill, to work on a business idea? The compound effect would be absolutely staggering. Same 30 minutes, completely different life. But here's what most people do. They confuse being busy with being productive. They run around all day checking things off list, putting out fires, responding to every email and every notification. And they fall into bed exhausted, thinking they've had a productive day. But busy doesn't equal productive. Activity doesn't equal accomplishment. You can be busy going in circles. You can be busy doing things that don't matter. The question isn't, are you busy? The question is, are you productive? Are you moving towards something that matters? Are your hours building something or just filling something? Here's a distinction that changed everything for me. You cannot manage time. Time manages itself just fine. Midnight comes whether you're ready or not. The sun rises on schedule. Seconds tick by at their own pace, completely indifferent to your plans or wishes or stress levels. You can't manage time, but you can manage yourself. You can manage your choices. You can manage your focus. You can manage your priorities. You can manage what you say yes to and what you say no to. That's where the power is. Not in controlling time, but in controlling yourself within time. Think about it this way. If someone gave you $86,400 every morning with the condition that you had to spend it all that day or lose it forever, would you waste it? Would you just throw hundreds of dollars in the trash? Of course not. You'd spend every penny on things that mattered to you. Well, that's exactly what happens with your seconds every day. You get 86,400 of them. And whatever you don't invest wisely just disappears. Yet, most people treat their seconds like they're unlimited, like there's always tomorrow, like they can waste today and make it up later. But the truth is, you can't. Power is gone forever. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. You can recover from financial bankruptcy, but you can't recover from time bankruptcy. When your time runs out, that's it. Game over. No extensions, no do-overs, no second chances. That's why how you spend your hours isn't just important, it's everything. Your hours become your days become your years, and your years become your life. Show me how someone spends their hours, and I'll show you their future. Now, once you understand that your hours are either building your future or destroying it, the next question becomes, how do you actually take control? How do you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the pilot? Because here's what I've noticed. Most people don't design their days. They just react to them. They wake up and see what happens. They let the phone calls dictate their schedule. They let other people's emergencies become their priorities. They're like a leaf floating down a river, just going wherever the current takes them. And then they wonder why they end up somewhere they never wanted to be. Let me tell you something that separates the amateurs from the masters. Masters design their time before they live it. They don't wait until morning to figure out what matters. They don't start their day by checking email and letting everyone else set their agenda. No, they know exactly what they're going to do with their precious hours before those hours even arrive. They've already won the day in their mind before the sun comes up. I learned this principle from Mr. Shea, and it transformed everything for me. He told me, Jim, the evening belongs to planning, and the morning belongs to execution. He showed me that successful people have this ritual every single evening before they go to bed. They sit down for 15 or 20 minutes and they design the next day, not vaguely but specifically. They write down what must get done, what they want to accomplish, and what they're going to say no to. They look at their day like an architect looks at a blueprint. They ask themselves, if tomorrow were perfect, what would it look like? What are the 3 most important things I need to accomplish? What will move my life forward versus just keeping me busy? Simple practice changed my life. Before I learned this, I'd wake up and just start doing whatever seemed urgent. I was always putting out fires, always reacting, always feeling behind. But once I started planning my days the night before, something shifted. I woke up with clarity. I knew exactly what mattered. I wasn't making decisions in the morning when I was groggy and vulnerable to distractions. I'd already made the decisions the night before when my mind was clear. The morning was just about executing the plan. But here's where most people mess this up. They make these long, overwhelming to-do lists with 30 items on them, and then they feel like failures. And they only get 5 things done. That's not planning. That's just setting yourself up for disappointment. The real skill is learning to separate what's truly important from what's just noise. I learned to divide everything into 3 categories: income-producing activities, life-producing activities, and time-wasting activities. Income-producing means it's directly making you money or building your career. Life-producing means it's making you healthier, smarter, or strengthening your relationships. Everything else, it's probably a waste, or at best it's maintenance. Once you see your activities through this lens, everything becomes clearer. You start to realize that checking social media 20 times a day isn't income-producing or life-producing. Watching 3 hours of television every night isn't building anything. Spending your lunch break complaining with co-workers isn't moving you forward. These things aren't evil, but they're not strategic either. And if you're serious about making something of your life, you can't afford to spend your prime hours on activities that produce nothing. Here's a phrase that'll change your life if you let it sink in. You must schedule your priorities, not prioritize your schedule. Most people fill their calendar with meetings, obligations, and other people's requests, and then they try to squeeze their dreams into whatever time is left over. That's backwards. The things that matter most to you, your health, your learning, your family, your business ideas, your personal growth, those things should be scheduled first. They should have protected time blocks on your calendar that are just as sacred as any meeting with your boss. I'll give you an example. For years, I wanted to write. I told myself I was a writer, but I wasn't writing. Why? Because I never scheduled it. I'd say, I'll write when I have some free time, but free time never came. There was always something else. Always another urgent matter, always another distraction. Then one day I made a decision. I blocked out 7 to 9 every single morning for writing. Nothing could touch those hours. No phone calls, no meetings, no exceptions. And you know what happened? I started writing not because I suddenly had more time, but because I made writing a priority and gave it protected space in my day. That's the power of time blocking. You decide in advance what matters, and you create non-negotiable appointments with yourself. Your exercise time isn't whenever you feel like it, it's blocked. Your reading time isn't if you get around to it, it's blocked. Your planning time, your learning time, your family time, all blocked. And when those blocks come up on your calendar, you treat them with the same respect you'd give to a meeting with the most important client you have. Because truthfully, you are the most important client you have. Now, let me talk about something most people never consider. Prime time. Not the TV kind, but your personal prime time. The hours when your mind is sharpest, your energy is highest, your creativity flows best. For most people, this is the morning. Your brain is fresh. You haven't been beaten down by the day yet. You haven't depleted your decision-making capacity. This is your golden time. And if you're spending it on low-value activities, you're robbing yourself blind. I knew an executive once who protected his morning hours like they were Fort Knox. He had a rule: nothing mundane before 10 a.m., no email, no meetings about administrative stuff, no busy work. His mornings were reserved exclusively for strategic thinking, important decisions, and creative work. Everything else could wait. People thought he was crazy, but here's what happened. He accomplished more in those 3 protected morning hours than most people accomplished all week. He was using his prime time for prime activities, while everyone else was using their prime time answering emails about office supplies. The question you have to ask yourself is, what am I doing with my best hours? Am I investing them in high V-value activities that move my life forward? Or am I squandering them on trivial nonsense that won't matter next week, next month, or next year? Because those hours are your most valuable commodity. Using them wisely is the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one. Here's an exercise that's brutally eye-opening. For 1 week, track where your time actually goes. Not where you think it goes, but where it really goes. Write down every activity and how long you spend on it. At the end of the week, add it up. How many hours did you spend on income-producing activities? How many on life-producing activities? How many were completely wasted on things that didn't matter? Most people, when they do this exercise, honestly are shocked. They discover they're spending 40 hours a week on their job, but only 30 minutes on their health. They're spending 3 hours a day on social media, but claiming they don't have time to read. They're spending their evenings on television, but saying they can't find time to work on their dreams. The numbers don't lie. Your calendar and your bank statement tell the truth about your priorities, no matter what your mouth says. If you say your family's important, but you're spending 2 hours a day with them and 4 hours watching sports, your priorities are clear. If you say your future is important, but you're investing 0 hours in learning and growing, your priorities are clear. Can lie to other people, but your time tells the truth. And here's the final piece of this blueprint: learning to say no. You cannot master your 24 hours without becoming excellent at saying no to things that don't serve your highest priorities. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something important. Every time you say yes to a time-wasting meeting, you're saying no to focused work. Every time you say yes to mindless entertainment, you're saying no to personal growth. The word no isn't negative, it's protective. It protects your time, your energy, and your future from being consumed by things that don't matter. Now let's talk about what genius really is. Because most people have it all wrong. They think genius is something you're born with, some special gift that only a few lucky people receive, but I'm here to tell you that's nonsense. Genius isn't born, it's built. built in small increments day after day through disciplines that most people aren't willing to practice. The real genius is the person who figures out that what you do with your hours consistently matters more than what you do occasionally. Here's something I've observed over 40 years of studying successful people. What you do with your first hour determines the quality of your entire day. Think about that. The first 60 minutes after you wake up set the tone for everything that follows. If you start your day in a rush, reactive and frantic, that energy carries through. If you started scrolling through other people's problems on your phone, you've already given away your mental clarity. But if you started with intention, with activities that strengthen you, that's when magic happens. Let me tell you about a morning ritual that changed everything for me. I wake up, and before I do anything else, before I check any messages, before I turn on any news, before I talk to anyone, I spend the first hour investing in myself. Part of that hour goes to exercise, getting my body moving and my blood flowing. Part of it goes to reading something that expands my mind. Part of it goes to reviewing my Goa and planning my attack for the day. By the time most people are hitting their snooze button for the third time, I've already won. I've already put points on the board. I've already done something that made me better than I was yesterday. You want to know what separates people who achieve extraordinary things from people who just talk about it? It's what they do before breakfast. Winners understand that the morning hours are too valuable to waste on low-level activities. They use that time when their mind is fresh and their willpower is strong to do the hard things, the important things, the things that actually move their life forward. I heard a story once about a janitor who became a millionaire, and it wasn't because he won the lottery or inherited money. Every morning, this man would get up at 5 and spend 1 hour studying real estate. Just 1 hour before he went to his janitorial job. He'd read books, study markets, analyze properties. His Kio workers thought he was crazy, spending his precious morning time on something that wasn't even his job. But after 5 years of this daily discipline, he knew more about real estate than most realtors. He started buying small properties than bigger ones. Within 15 years, that janitor owned more property than the people whose offices he used to clean. Same hours available to everyone else. Different choices about how to use them. That's the power of dedicated learning time. 1 hour a day focused on learning something valuable will make you an expert in any field within 5 years. Not someday, not eventually. In 5 years, you'll know more than 90% of people in that area. But here's the catch. It has to be every day. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient. Every single day, like brushing your teeth. Most people spend more time every day watching television than they spend an entire month learning something new. Then, they wonder why their life doesn't change. I made a commitment years ago to read for at least 30 minutes every day. Not Facebook posts, not news articles, but actual books that challenge me and teach me something valuable. Do you know what happened? In 1 year, I read more than 50 books. That's 50 different perspectives, 50 sets of ideas, 50 opportunities to learn from people smarter than me. And the compound effect was incredible. Ideas from one book would connect with ideas from another. Solutions to my problems would appear. My thinking would expand. All from 30 minutes a day that most people spend on activities they won't even remember next week. But reading alone isn't enough. You have to apply what you learn. And that requires focused time blocks where you actually do the work. I'm a big believer in time blocking for your most important activities. When it's time to work on your business, that's all you do. No multitasking, no checking email every 5 minutes, no letting people interrupt you with their little emergencies. You block the time. You protect it like it's sacred. And you give that activity your complete attention. I had non-negotiable blocks for everything that mattered. Writing time was writing time. Planning time was planning time. Family time was family time. And during each block, I was fully present. I wasn't physically with my family while mentally at work. I wasn't in a business meeting while mentally somewhere else. Whatever block I was in, that's where all of me was. That level of focus is rare these days, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. Here's another practice that'll change your life. The evening review. Every night, before you plan the next day, spend 10 minutes reviewing the day that just passed. Ask yourself, what went well? What didn't? What did I learn? What would I do differently? This simple habit accelerates your growth fast, than almost anything else, because you're learning from every single day. Most people just repeat the same day over and over for 40 years and call it a life. But when you review daily, you're constantly adjusting, improving, getting better. You're not just living weeks, you're learning from them. Successful people do weekly reviews too. Every Sunday they look back at the week and ask, did I move closer to my goals? Did I invest my time wisely? What needs to change next week? They treat their time like a precious investment, and they track the returns. Average people just let week after week slip by without ever stopping to evaluate whether they're actually going anywhere. And here's something most people completely miss. Rest and renewal aren't optional. They're essential. You can't sprint for 40 years straight. Your body needs recovery. Your mind needs space to process and integrate what you're learning. Smart people schedule rest time, just like they schedule work time. They understand that sharpening the saw isn't wasted time. It's what allows you to cut more wood tomorrow. You know what the real tragedy is? It's not that people fail to achieve their dreams. The real tragedy is that most people spend their entire lives getting through days instead of making days count. They survive Monday to get to Friday. They endure the week to get to the weekend. They wish away entire seasons of their lives, waiting for retirement, for vacation for someday. And all the while, their days are slipping through their fingers like sand. And they're treating each one like it doesn't matter, like there's an unlimited supply, like they can always start living tomorrow. Let me give you some mathematics that might sober you up a bit. If you're 30 years old and you live to be 80, you've got about 18,250 days left. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But subtract the time you'll spend sleepy, NG, and you're down to about 12,000 waking days. That's it. 12,000 days to build everything you want to build, love everyone you want to love, experience everything you want to experience, and become everything you're capable of becoming. When you look at it that way, wasting even one day starts to feel like a crime against your own potential. But here's what most people do. They live like they have forever. They procrastinate on their dreams. They put off the important conversations. They delay starting that business, writing that book, learning that skill, taking that trip. They say next year so many times that next year becomes never. And then one day they wake up at 65 or 70 and they realize that all those days they thought didn't matter actually added up to their entire life. The days you waste don't disappear, they become your life story. Let me tell you about something my mentor asked me that changed how I see every single day. He said, Jim, what did you do with your Tuesday? Not your year, not your month, your Tuesday. That one ordinary day. And I stumbled over my answer because honestly, I couldn't remember anything significant about that particular Tuesday. It had just been another day lost in the blur. He looked at me and said, if you can't account for your Tuesdays, you can't account for your life, because your life isn't made of years. It's made of Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. String together enough wasted Tuesdays and you've wasted your life. That hit me hard. From that day forward, I started living with this understanding. Every day is significant. Not just the big days, not just the days when something special happens, but every single ordinary day. Because those ordinary days, when lived with intention, create extraordinary results. One good day doesn't change your life, but one good day repeated for 5 years absolutely transforms everything. Here's what I want you to understand about urgency. There's a difference between stressed urgency and purposeful urgency. Stressed urgency is panic. It's running around like your hair's on fire. It's anxiety-driven chaos. But purposeful urgency is different. It's the understanding that your time matters, that today counts, that you don't have the luxury of waiting for perfect conditions. It's moving with intention and speed because you respect the value of your hours. The masters live with purposeful urgency. They're not stressed, but they're not casual either. They know that while they can't control how many days they get, they can control what they do with the days they have. And here's something beautiful about living this way. One well-lived day creates ripples. When you have a powerful morning, it affects your whole day. When you have a productive day, it affects your whole week. When you have a focused week, it affects your whole month. It compounds. Every discipline you practice today is an investment that pays dividends tomorrow. Every book you read today makes you smarter for every tomorrow that follows. Every relationship you strengthen today creates a support system for your future. Nothing is wasted when you live with intention. I spent years of my life just going through the motions, and I can't get those years back. That's my biggest regret. Not the things I tried and failed at, but the time I wasted not trying at all. The mornings I slept through, the evenings I threw away on meaningless activities. The weeks I let slip by without any real progress. Those years are gone, and all I have to show for them is the lesson they taught me. Your days are your life in installments. How you spend your days is how you spend your life. But here's the good news. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday or last year or 10 years ago. You can't change your past, but can change your pattern, starting right now. Today can be the day everything shifts. Not someday, not next Monday, not after you get your situation perfect. Today, this very day can be the beginning of a completely different life if you're willing to redesign how you use your hours. Think about where you'll be in 5 years if you keep living your days exactly as you're living them now. Same morning routine, same evening habits, same way of spending your time. Where does that path lead? Be honest with yourself. Think about where you could be in 5 years if you redesigned your days starting tomorrow. If you protected your mornings, invested in learning, eliminated the time wasters, focused on what truly matters, that's a completely different destination, isn't it? Your life will not change until your days change. You can set all the goals you want, make all the plans you want, dream all the dreams you want, but nothing shifts until you shift what you do with your 24 hours. The good news is you don't have to change everything at once. Start with 1 hour. Master your morning. Protect 1 hour every day for something that matters. Just 1 hour of dedicated focus on your health, your learning, your business, your relationships, whatever needs to grow in your life. 1 hour a day is 365 hours a year. That's enough to transform anything. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for your life to change and start changing your days. Stop saying you'll start next week and start tomorrow morning. Design your day tonight. Decide what matters. Protect your time like the precious resource it is. Live with the urgency of someone who understands that every day counts because it does. Your legacy isn't what you're going to do someday. It's what you're doing with your hours right now. Make them count.